So, you want to know the pros and cons of living here in Michigan? Well, lucky for you, I have been a troll my whole life and have the insights of the best and worst parts of living here in Michigan. You don't know what a troll is? That's okay. We'll get started and we'll get to that a little bit later. Hi, my name is Doug Worsley. I am a local realtor here in Metro Detroit, and I lived in Canton for most of my life. To kick things off, let's talk about some of the common reasons people tend to live here in Michigan. And the number one reason would be, you guessed it, 4 seasons. I have to admit, having 4 seasons is nice. It changes up the year. It also allows for different season-related activities. Here in Michigan, we get to do it all from boating to snowmobiling. Moving on to pro number 2, we have hunting and fishing. We have some of the best hunting and fishing in the United States. We have anything here in Michigan, we have anything from small game hunting up to large game. We have deer, obviously, bear, black bear. We do have moose, but there's no moose hunting here, but we do have elk hunting. Outside of that, we have small game, which is coyote hunting, you have squirrel hunting, you have rabbit hunting. I mean, pretty much anything on the small game is on the list. For the most part, the bear is usually from Bay City on up to the UP. On the lower hand side of the state is mostly just deer hunting is our biggest game that we have, and then small game hunting. As far as the fishing goes, like I told you before, we have state-of-the-art fishing here. We have the walleyes, which are phenomenal. A lot of people love to do the perch fishing, and then salmon and trout fishing. Salmon and trout you're going to be mostly on your northern side, such as Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior. And then your walleye, you can pretty much get anywhere, and same thing with the perch. So for me, as far as the fishing is concerned, I love to do the walleye season in the April and May timeframe. That's when they come into the Detroit River, and it is just phenomenal type of fishing. We do a little bit of jigging. Sometimes we'll do harness fishing, but for the most part, that jigging fish, there's just a touch to it, but when you catch them, and you're getting the big ones, and when we say big ones, we're talking 22, 23 inch walleyes. They're good sized walleyes. From there, we do perch fishing in the summertime, mostly in the Lake Erie area. Here in Michigan, you can fish almost anywhere. I think you can't go anywhere in the state of Michigan without hitting water within 5 miles. We have rivers and creeks as well as lakes and big lakes all over the place. Then I turn around and I love doing the salmon fishing, and I usually go to Ludington and we'll go to Pure Marquette River, my daughter and I. It's a yearly trip. I also go with some friends of mine, and we go out there and we do the river fishing. And if you've never caught a salmon, let me tell you, that is something. I mean, we've had them snap our poles in half. We've had them break our lures in half. They are such an enormous species. It's unbelievable. It's hard to explain. You just have to try it. From there, the hunting wise, 99% of the time I'm doing deer hunting. My wife and I love to deer hunt, as well as my daughter. And we do deer management. We have 115 acres in northern Michigan, and we usually put in the food plots and maintain the deer herd and making sure that we have a nice healthy herd. We always follow the DNR suggested guidelines as far as what that number should be, and we ended up doing what we need to do. So from there, like I said, it's just the abundance of fishing, hunting opportunities here in Michigan, and you can't go wrong with anything that you choose or whatever suits your needs. Now we have pro number 3, and that would be the Upper Peninsula. Here in Michigan, we call it the UP. Some people will say, what is up? That's not up, it's UP. Michigan, the Upper Peninsula is 16,378 square miles. The Lower Peninsula is 58,591 square miles. So it's roughly about a 70-30% ratio there. The UP does have different accents up there. The Uper. It's kind of weird because when you go to the Upper Peninsula, it's almost like a different state in some sense. The scenery up there is so beautiful. I actually have property up there as well. The population in the UP is about 302,000, or about 3%. The Lower Peninsula, I think, has almost 10 million people. So you can see the difference there. There's not a lot of population up there. Did you know, though, that the UP, how that became part of Michigan? It was one of the best negotiations ever, is we gave up Toledo and gained the Upper Peninsula. And then we didn't create that bridge, which was the Mighty Mackinac Bridge, until the 1950s. So before that, we actually had to take a ferry boat, whichever way you want to call it, across the straits there. Now, let me explain the troll joke. So Because of that bridge, the Mackinac Bridge, the Upper Peninsula people, they all sit there and say that anyone that lives under the bridge, which is south of the Mighty Mac, is a troll. And so they call us trolls. In addition to that, did you also know that we have copper mines that are up in the Upper Peninsula? We have Porcupine Mountains, and we actually have great mountains that are up in there. So there's just, and I think there's, I don't even know how many waterfalls, but there's a ton of waterfalls up there. So if you ever get a chance, get up there and check out the Upper Peninsula. It's a great place. You're not going to be disappointed. Now that brings us to number 4, which is our education system, specifically our colleges. Michigan is a top 10 for the amount of colleges in the United States, 93 to be exact, including 8 research-specific universities. Some well-known ones are University of Michigan, which they have multiple campuses in Ann Arbor, Dearborn, and Flint. We have Michigan State University, which is out of East Lansing. We have Wayne State University out of Detroit. We have Central Michigan University out of Mount Pleasant. Western Michigan University, which is out of Kalamazoo. We have also the 8th highest graduation rate at 81.8% in the entire US in the year of 2022. And that's not even to mention about the number of great high schools we have that go to state champs and private school systems. I mean, the education here is a top notch for Michigan. And then last but not least, coming in at number 5, we have affordable housing. I know that's a term that most people are not used to hearing. That's affordable, but here in Michigan, we come in the top 10 at number 9, according to homebuyer.com. The average homes here in Michigan range anywhere from the mid-100s to the 600,000, depending on the area. In retrospect, when you're comparing it to other states, it is affordable. Now, although Michigan has a ton of great features about it, of course, there are some things that are not so great. And I don't want to be biased here, so I'm going to turn around and tell you about those as well. We're going to get this right out of the way, and the number 1 con about Michigan is the roads. How our roads are compared to other states, oh my Lord, let me tell you, I've been all over the country and there's nothing that I've come across that's worse than Michigan roads. On top of that, construction constantly happening. Ask my wife, I mean, she's like white knuckling the steering wheel or the handle when I'm driving, just because when the construction's out there and, there's barrels everywhere and everybody's trying to get just to their location fast enough, it just creates chaos. And that's where, it's just the biggest downfall of Michigan, in my opinion. It's important to make sure that you have a great set of tires on your car in the winter. Why? Because not just because of the snow and the salt, but we have potholes. There's actually a funny joke about that, which is you can never get pulled over for drunk driving here because all you gotta say is I was just dodging the potholes, right? It's just, there's so many potholes, it's just ridiculous. And part of that is because of our salt that we put down on the road. It melts the water gets in the crack, it refreezes, and then the trucks come by and it makes it bigger, whatever the reason, I don't really understand. But how are our roads so much worse than all these other states? We're not the only state using it. So don't ask me, I'm not the engineer here, but I'm just telling you, from my standpoint of living here, I'm not a big fan of the road construction. That leads us into the con number 2, which is the snow and ice. Snow and ice is not the greatest thing to drive in. We do actually have a pretty good system here, and we do have a good plow system and salting system, but it seems like everybody just forgets how to drive, especially at those first few months. And when we get snow and ice, everyone still was trying to do 55, 65, 100 miles an hour, and then they just takes one little slip, and then next thing you know, they lose control. Accidents obviously are gonna happen. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you just slip into a ditch. There's just multiple things here. And the older I get, the worse it is for me to want to drive in that type of weather. Our front wheel drive vehicles aren't as bad as what they used to be back in the 70s when we had rear wheel drive vehicles. But regardless, driving in the snow and ice is not fun at all. Then you also have the wear to your vehicles. You get rust from the salt. If you're not kicking off the salt and washing your car almost on a daily basis, that rust will sit there and tend to build up, and it ends up rusting out the car. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but people that sell cars in the southern states say it's never seen snow or it's never seen salt. There's a reason for that. On top of that, the potholes, you're going to ruin tires, you're going to ruin your rims or maybe even your shocks. And I'm talking like very extensive here. It's not like that every single time. I'm not changing my tires every single year, but these are things still to consider as far as our roads, and it's just not a fun area. Can also be viewed as a pro, but however, if you like to skate or sled. We have ice skating, we have sledding, there's tons of sledding hills. Even for, if you go up to like Boyne Mountain, we actually have places up there you can go and ski. They actually make their own snow. So as long as it's cold enough, they'll make their own snow if they don't have enough. So there's a lot of outdoor activities that people love to do, whether it's ice fishing, skating, sledding. You don't really see a whole lot of shagging these days, but that's something that we'll talk about at a later date. But regardless, there's still lots of good things to do here in the wintertime. So let's get into con number 3, which is the traffic. Traffic, oh my Lord, traffic backups are everywhere if you're in a high populated area such as Canton or Novi. These are some of your biggest traffic areas, especially during rush hour. But if you plan ahead, or if you live here long enough, you know the back roads, you can usually get by it, or it just comes second nature to us. Your work commute can double, especially in the wintertime, or if it's not even in the wintertime, because of the construction. Either way, you have to plan your route and make sure that you leave on time so you're not late for work. As I said before, the populated cities lead to congested traffic, even when it's not rush hour. Everyone, like for instance on Fridays, a lot of people are headed up north in Michigan and in the summertime. So you can expect 275, 96, 696 areas to be very congested as everyone's trying to head north. Doesn't matter what time of the hour that you're running. You can run, you can leave at 10 a.m. sometimes, and guess what? You and 500 other thousand people are thinking of the same thing. Now, that can also lead to a lot of accidents, which are dangerous, such as the Ford Road. Certain areas or certain intersections that have more accidents than others. And this is the reason why Canton is looking at putting in a boulevard. They're thinking that this boulevard is going to lessen the amount of accidents that are happening because of that congestion. Moving close to the end of our list, we have con number 4, which is our limited public transit. States like Chicago have the L, New York City have their subway system. However, here in Detroit, we do have the People Mover, the new Q line, and we do have lots of buses. However, we just don't have that public transit like these other states have. We also don't have a lot of taxis or cabs. So if you need a ride somewhere, you either got to call a friend or call Uber. But why is that? We're the Motor City. I think here in the Motor City, we've actually encouraged people to buy cars and not use transit, public transit. Well, regardless, that is going to take us down to our con number 5, which is we have Michigan left turns. If you don't know what a Michigan left turn is, you're in for something, because this is one of the biggest complaints I hear from other states. A Michigan left is, I want to turn left at this road. No, you can't. You have to go past the road, make a U-turn, come back, and then you can turn right. Why is that? They call it a boulevard, they call it Michigan left, so call it whatever you want. I've never seen it in any other states, which is why it's called Michigan left turn. What is it? Why are they doing it? It's so annoying, and I don't even know what to say anymore. I mean, it's just ridiculous to me. I'm not an engineer. Maybe it is something that's phenomenal, but in my opinion, I hate them and I usually try to avoid them. So that wraps up my list of pros and cons about living here in the great state of Michigan, and I hope you learned a thing or two. You at least know what a troll is. If you're watching this video because you're interested in checking out some homes here, I would love to have the opportunity to help you. Give your favorite troll a call, which is me, at 734-560-3499, and we'll get the process started and answer any questions you have whatsoever. Don't forget to subscribe below, and it really helps me out. See you on the next one.